So we had 6 weeks, $30,000 to build something completely new. And that was when I knew, okay, I need to fly from San Francisco back to Shenzhen, where things are cheap, they're fast, and I know where everything is. I can get 3D printing same day or next day, versus in San Francisco, it takes a couple of days. I can buy components just at the electronics market, whereas in the US, I have to order something on DigiKey, and it takes about a week to arrive. So we flew back to China, went back to our hardware accelerator, and we sort of spent 6 weeks there building a new product. And then we launched it on Kickstarter with no idea what would happen. But first day, we smashed through our goal of $50,000. And then every day we had a constant sales, which ultimately ended up in $2 million sales within 45 days.
Welcome. This is Phil Michaels, Forbes 30 Under 30 entrepreneur and performance coach. Forbes names the top 30 entrepreneurs, leaders, and stars in the world. And each week we bring you one of them to help you level up in your life and business. From celebrities like LeBron James to Kylie Jenner and Cardi B, you're sure to learn from the list. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now it's time to level up. Level up. Level up. Welcome to Phil with Forbes 30 podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He made the Forbes Asia list in 2017 for the industry and energy category. He's the founder of View, a pair of stylish smart glasses built for everyday use, tracking your activities like your steps, posture, calories, taking music and calls, and even has a tracker in case you lose your glasses. He's raised over $2.2 million on Kickstarter and sold $4 million in its first year of launch, becoming the top eyewear Kickstarter campaign of all time. He holds degrees in mechanical engineering, marketing, and operations management from the University of Pennsylvania. He has been building hardware and software devices ever since he built a dumpling maker out of Legos as a kid. He's lived in China, New Zealand, Australia, and now resides in San Francisco. Lastly, he was named as one of the MIT Innovators under 35 for their Asia list. Please welcome my very special guest, Jason Gui.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Phil, for that introduction.
Very excited to have you here. I'm honored, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome to the show. Jason and I were lucky enough to meet at one of the Forbes events, as you've been hearing from previous episodes. In Israel is where it all started, and now we get to reconnect. So I'm so excited to share his story with you and what he's been working on. But Jason, before we dive into things, share with the audience where you were when you first found out you made the Forbes list.
I think I was in Shenzhen at the time. That's where our other office is, where we do like sort of manufacturing. And then actually, before I even knew I was on the list, I think they reached out to me about like my picture or something. They were saying like, oh, we need you to send a new picture in, because the first one that I sent in didn't work. And so I was like, oh, if they're asking me for a picture, I'm probably in. so that was sort of like, I got to know beforehand. But yeah, when I got to know about it, I wasn't informed by anyone at Forbes. It just kind of someone else saw it published, and then they informed me. And so I was like, wow, like it's true. I'm super excited.
Such a validating moment when you make the list. Such a proud moment. Who was the first person you shared it with when you found out?
Probably my parents. Especially what I really liked was like, when you make the list, you actually show up with your own personal profile on the Forbes site. And so that was like super exciting. And that profile actually proved useful during the trip where we met last time in Israel. Because when I was flying into Israel, they were checking my passport, and I had like stamps from all over the world because I love to travel in my spare time. I think that year I went to like 30 other countries. So the Israeli authorities were like, wow, like, why were you in Malaysia? Like, why were you in Brunei? Like, are you still in touch with anyone? I just seemed super suspicious. And then I tried to prove to them like, hey guys, I'm, legit. I'm a startup entrepreneur. Here's me on Forbes. And I showed them that.
I think a lot of people had that same situation because we were there right when Trump was announcing that Jerusalem was going to become the U.S. embassy for the Israeli embassy. And they then we had the bombings in the Golan Heights. And if you remember, there was like extra security going on. So we all got that extra screening and pulled to the side, and we're all trying to convince the Israeli government and security, airport security, that we're legitimate. So those Forbes profiles definitely helped in more ways than one. I'm sure it's been used for other forms of credibility too, trying to get into events or maybe even picking up a date.
Well, I haven't tried that yet, but I'm sure it should be pretty successful.
There you go. You're even getting dating tips on this episode. This is perfect. Jason, take us back to the very beginning, where you're from, where you grew up, and the path that ultimately led you to where you are now, making it to the Forbes list.
Yeah. So I was born in Shenzhen, which, a couple of years ago, and probably no one knew about it. But now it's sort of risen in fame as the place where they make iPhones, the place where Huawei comes from, the place where they do all the electronics manufacturing. So, things like the webcam we're using right now, the computers, your headphone that you're wearing, all those came out of Shenzhen, China. And it's a pretty amazing city in itself because it's only got like 30, 40 years of history. It's grown from absolutely nothing into a big metropolis. So I was born over there. I grew up in New Zealand. And that was where I was exposed to sort of, playing Lego and really creating things. Because you get all this free time versus if I had been in China, I wouldn't have had all this free time to do my own stuff. And that's when I decided I really want to, either be a scientist or an engineer or something. I want to make cool things. So I then went to study in the US, and I chose mechanical engineering and business because I wanted to do a startup. But during the whole 4 years of college, I didn't have a startup idea that was credible enough for me to come out of college, to drop out of school and really pursue. Even though I was trying the whole time to just find something to drop out of college for. But that kind of idea never came. But when it did come, it was during my senior design. So for mechanical engineering senior design, we get to pick whatever we want to do, as long as we're solving the world's problems. And what me and my team came up with was falling asleep in class is a huge problem that we wanted to solve. And so we wanted to build something that could help students stay awake in class. And what we ultimately came up with from that senior design project was a pair of glasses that could track your eyes to see if you were falling asleep. And then it would zzz to buzz you when you fall asleep.
Wow, that's genius. I could especially see that being helpful for truck drivers, which is one of the largest professions here in the US.
Exactly, yeah. So, initially, we were students, we were young, we had no idea about the world outside. So we're like, yeah, this is going to sell to students and, every student is going to buy this. And professors were like, I should give that to all my classes. But, we did that. We decided to do a Kickstarter for that product. It didn't go too well. We sold about like 1,000 pairs. Because we were trying to market it to students, which, students don't really care if they fall asleep in class, to be honest. But what we did find was, exactly as you said, there were a lot of truck drivers, a lot of companies who reached out to us about our product and said like, wow, you should really sell this to truck drivers and help them stay awake. So that was how we sort of went into the trucking business, coming from zero background in trucking. And we did that for a few years, working on Vigo, building it as a product for truck drivers, eventually turning it into a headset so that they can communicate as well as track their drowsiness levels. And then a couple years later, we then launched our new product called View, which is smart glasses for everyday use, as you just described. I'm actually currently wearing them right now. So they look just like normal glasses, and these lenses have my prescription in them. So basically, they look no different from normal glasses.
Yeah, you can't even tell.
Right, and no one can really tell. But there's a lot of technology packed into them. We have a lot of sensors, accelerometers, touch control. We have bone conduction technology in here. So basically, the stems of the legs vibrate, and you can hear audio while no one else can. So that's all built into these glasses, which are super discreet. And actually,
Genius.
one side note was when I was in Israel and they stopped me, and I showed them the Forbes profile and all that. They asked for my business card, so I gave them one. And then a month later, one of the security people emailed me and said, like, this is really, suitable for security. Let's chat. So, the fact that they're super discreet and people can't tell that they're with technology inside is a big reason why a lot of people want them. So we launched that product in 2016. And as you mentioned, we had no idea if it would succeed. But in 45 days, we were able to raise $2 million in the 45 days, and it became an instant hit. So we're like, wow, there's actually a real market for this. So we no longer sell towards truck drivers, but towards people, everyday glasses wearers who basically need prescription glasses and who also listen to music, use headphones, and it's all built in one. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years.
I mean, that's amazing because now you realized it's not just for truck drivers, not just for students. You realize what your market was there, but now you developed a product for everyday use. People that I'm sure you said it, people that play music, people that take calls, people that want to track their activity. That's basically everyone. I mean, how did you, like when we think about your success and how you got to where you are now, what do you attribute that to? What was maybe the most important personal attribute you've had that's gotten you to where you are today?
I think it's just, it's just passion. Just very simply, it's just passion. Like I've been building things since I was a kid, playing with Lego, doing all kinds of things, just, making things basically. And so for me, it's like, I just want to solve problems. And so, back in college, when we were picking senior design projects, most people had no idea what kind of problem they wanted to solve. And they just sort of picked off a list that the professors provided. So, they were doing sort of nanotube, viscous flow, I don't know, like all that kind of really fancy stuff. But it didn't really lead to a real life thing. But to me, I was thinking, okay, I have a full year to do senior design. I'm working with like 3 other teammates. I have all these professors who are helping me work on something. Why don't I create something that could be commercialized? So I think, really the ability to integrate all these resources together and then create something out of it. I think that's something that I really found I'm good at.
You're like Elon Musk at UPenn studying engineering, but then also the business side of things. So
well, he can be my role model because we kind of study the similar things.
Yeah.
And then space aspirations too. I think it's too early for me right now to do anything space related, just as he wouldn't have done something like that when he was in his 20s. But, one day I hope to be doing very similar things.
Yeah, you have very similar paths. And as you could see, his biography is right here by Ashley.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Not this one yet. I've read a lot of other articles and stuff about it, but not this one.
This is the first one where he actually sits down for an interview for a book to be written about him. It's the only one he's ever approved. So it's a very fascinating one. He talks about the nitty gritty and he talks about how he forced his engineering team to live off the coast of Hawaii on an island so that they had no distractions from family or friends to force them to work harder and and then he was living in California at the time and they're just slaving away for like 3 months at a time.
Yeah, intense guy.
Intense guy. And then his story about NASA, I mean, all the role models that he looked up to at NASA and telling him that he can't create a relaunchable rocket. And not only did he do it, but he did it way under budget and way less than what they were paying for. And he was just like, their technology was so antiquated that he just kept putting it down and saying, we need to revamp this. This is from the 60s. And it's pretty fascinating. And I could see how your paths are similar because he went to UPenn and he has the engineering and the business side. And it sounds like you're able to take advantage of both, now working on hardware and software while also making it a commercial product that you could sell. So thinking of your product, what is the most common reason that you use it? And what do you find is the most common reason other people use it? And like, who's your most common customer?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, we're a pair of glasses. And so when you ask like who's using it, it's actually very simple. It's people who wear glasses. And, maybe you're not wearing glasses right now, but you probably have a pair of sunglasses. For a lot of people who are myopic or who rely on glasses to see every day, glasses is like the most important thing. Like you could walk out of, you could start your day and walk out of your room and go to work and forget to bring your phone. You might forget to bring your keys. You might forget to bring your wallet. But for someone who wears glasses, you definitely won't be able to forget your glasses because that's just essential for a lot of people. And, just like what you said about Elon Musk trying to sort of innovate in the space sector, glasses actually haven't changed at all in the past 800 years. They were first invented in Italy like 800 years ago, and they've always been doing just one thing, which is vision correction, which is great, and it's helping a lot of people, but it hasn't changed much. So that's why to us it's like, we want to build something that's first and foremost glasses, but then do other things cool with it. So there were other attempts like Google Glass, which everyone knows about, and everyone tends to compare. When you talk about smart glasses, they would mention Google Glass. And Google Glass was a really amazing feat of engineering, but where they failed was being glasses first. They were basically, I would probably assume that was people who didn't wear glasses who were trying to build a computer into these glasses. But
That's a great point.
it was heavy, it was uncomfortable. And when you're building glasses, you first need to think, how do I build something that people are going to wear for like 15 hours a day? And then gradually add little bits of technology inside. And so that's why we don't have a camera, we don't have a screen, we don't have a huge battery, because we need it to be lightweight. And I think that's a big reason why people are willing to wear this, because it's comfortable. That's, first it's glasses. And then after that is when you think about like, who are the people who are actually listening to music with it. Probably people working in an office who want to concentrate and hear music, but they don't want to plug in their ears and, seem sort of really secluded or not being able to respond if someone's trying to talk to you. And so that's why we have this open ear design where you can listen to music while still being able to hear what's going on around you. So the same thing applies to pedestrians, cyclists, basically being able to hear what's going on around you when you're listening to music or taking a call. To us, that was super important. And so we designed it in a way where, yes, you do sacrifice a bit of audio quality because the audio is not sticking into your ear as a headphone would, but you're also getting this convenience by being able to hear what's going on around you.
It's genius. And you just illuminated the biggest failure Google Glass had, because I remember trying Google Glass and I'm like, these are cool, but it's more like a novelty item. I'm not actually going to wear these things. I look like an idiot. And but you thought so simple. You're like, wait a second, people already wear glasses, so we just need to replicate that and add an extra piece of value to it. Just like the iPhone, right? They didn't say, when we had iPhone, you used to have to carry around your digital camera and your iPod, your music playing device, all three, anytime you went anywhere. And they were like, all right, well, what are you already taking around with you? Let's add the music player to that. Let's add the camera to that, instead of trying to, it's kind of like in business, you want to use an existing distribution channel, but you're using an existing distribution channel to your user, which is they're already wearing glasses. So let's just add a piece of value like the music player, like tracking your habits and et cetera.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when you're building a startup, it's really hard to teach someone a new thing, a new habit, but building on top of something they already have is fairly simple. So if they're wearing glasses, try to build a better pair of glasses that has more stuff in it. Or if I don't know, people are eating, so maybe food delivery is something that works. So people are trying to travel, so maybe something like Uber that fulfills people's travel needs can work. I think like starting with an actual need that people already have and then making that better is a better way for us, new entrepreneurs to start off with.
Yeah, behavior change is not an area you want to go into. You want to mitigate the amount of behavior change you're forcing your end user to take. I forget the exact number, don't quote me on the number, but for every additional click you force your end user to take, or for every additional action they need to take, around 30% of those users won't take that additional step. So you're losing a huge amount of your end users for every step you force them to take or every additional action or click. So whether it's an app or a website, you're losing a lot of people. But so you just need to make it simple, convenient, something they're already doing every day. It's good
Exactly.
advice.
Yeah, and we actually utilize that a lot during our online e-commerce and stuff because right now our main distribution is online, so people can go to our website to buy this. We were gonna do sort of physical stores this year, but I'm glad we didn't because of COVID and all that. But basically, you know, when it's online, it's all about how do you eliminate the barrier and have people purchase something with as few clicks as possible. So for example, we have the option where instead of entering your prescription when you place the order, which a lot of people don't have their prescriptions by then, we actually allow them to place the order and then follow up with the prescription. And so that allows them to, you know, take advantage of deals or purchase something and then provide those details later.
That's interesting. I have Warby Parker glasses. They're pretty popular now. It's like $100, $150, and now they include the blue light blocking. They are. So you can't even tell that they're blue light blocking,
Yeah.
but they're stylish. What I like about them, and maybe this is an interesting idea, maybe you've already thought about it, is they put physical standalone locations in already existing infrastructure. So for example, there's this place called Oxford Exchange around here in Tampa, Florida. It's like a restaurant and whatnot. And they put the Warby Parker location inside the restaurant. I'm wondering if there's like, have you thought about a licensing deal to get more of your glasses on people's faces?
Yeah, actually, so Warby Parker, the CEOs graduated from Penn as well. So we actually know them. They've been to our office in San Francisco, and there's definitely a lot that we can learn from them, or potentially collaborate with them in the future. Because I think Warby Parker is really forward thinking in terms of like all the kind of things they did about buyer peer, they made another peer, and the kind of styles and designs they have appeal to a younger audience. We're not looking for the $9.99 glasses or the $1,000 Prada glasses that you get in other stores, but rather affordable, stylish glasses. And I think we all share that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, because I could see similar to the existing distribution channels, like people are already buying Warby Parkers. How could we add value or get into the door with an existing distribution channel? I could see that being really valuable. And while also, obviously, you're already extremely successful from the direct-to-consumer e-commerce play. And well, now we talked about the success. What about the flip side? What's been maybe your biggest lesson that you've learned along your journey that maybe you wish you had learned from sooner?
It's good to really focus and really, not give up and go in one direction. But it's important to sometimes ultimately realize that you're probably wrong, and then be flexible enough to pivot or to do something different. So the story behind how we started this was when we did Vigo. So I mentioned Vigo earlier. We were doing like these trekking companies. We did an okay Kickstarter, but what really got us into the trekking business was when we started reaching out and starting to hear back from companies like UPS and FedEx and all kinds of these huge logistics and transportation companies. And they had a lot of interest. They were like, wow, trucking safety is a huge thing for us. And we really spend millions and millions in it every year, and we're willing to buy things. So we're like, yeah, let's get into this. Let's hire someone who's expert at sales to trucking, and let's do this. So we did Vigo for for about 2 or 3 years, selling specifically only to trucking. But what happened was ultimately we couldn't land any deals. We could do like little pilot programs where a company would buy like 50, 100 units and try to sell. We could sell to them and they would do like little test runs. But what we couldn't do was land that 100,000 unit deal with UPS. And looking back, I can kind of understand why. We're a little startup. A huge company like that doesn't really want to place their bets on a tiny little startup that might not exist in a few years. And also, our technology just wasn't really there yet because drowsiness is actually pretty hard to track. It's not like temperature, for example, which is anyone could measure temperature in different ways and you probably get similar numbers, or things like length and dimensions and weight, there's standards to it. But drowsiness, if I say you're drowsy and you say you're not, then who do we trust, right? It's very subjective. So we had a lot of trouble sort of trying to quantitatively measure drowsiness, but it was just really, really hard to measure. So when we did Vigo, we raised about 700K. We had all these big deals with like UPS and stuff. We were working with them on the outside. It looked like we were doing great, and we were working with all these people. And drowsiness detection is not a very common thing that you hear of. But when you talk about it, people are like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and there's definitely need for it. So everyone was excited about us, but no one was paying money. So ultimately, our team, we went to about 7 people, and then we cut it down back to 3. And then we ran out of cash. We only had $30,000 left in the bank at the time. This was 2016. And my co-founder was like, okay, Jason, like we've been doing this for a couple of years. Let's do something different. I'm like, no, we can't. Like $30,000, I'm sure we'll make it. This will last us 2 months. Maybe we'll get there, and then there'll be a breakthrough, or maybe we'll die. But either way, I want to spend this $30,000 and just really try hard.
Yeah, that's like every entrepreneur, and you sometimes become blinded and fall in love with your solution rather than being able to pivot and adapt to the market.
Exactly. I mean, it was my baby. I was working in it during senior design. It was my idea. And so it's really hard when someone tells you like your baby is, you should throw your baby away. I'm like, no way. Like
your baby is ugly. This is not working.
Yeah. But then what I do think was important though was I really trusted my co-founder because we've been working together for multiple years, even before this current company. I really trusted her. And so when she said that, we should do something different, I still took what she said to heart, and I said, okay, give me 3 months. I'll try to raise funding. Let's try to see what happens. If not, then okay, I'll pivot. So 3 months later was when we were left with 30,000, and I still couldn't raise any funding, and we still couldn't make any sales. And so I'm like, all right, what's your idea? And she says, like, let's throw away the drowsiness detection. I'm like, no way, how could we do that? Like, we've been doing that. We put in hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've been doing that for like 5 years. How can we throw away our core technology? She's like, let's throw away that drowsiness detection, but keep everything else we have. The smart glasses, the tracking, the voice control, all that kind of thing. We had ideas where you could be driving and order coffee at your next truck stop, things like that. She says, like, let's keep all those voice recognition, all that in there, but throw away the drowsiness detection. And now you have something that anyone could use, not just drivers, but anyone. And I wasn't really trusting her idea, and there was nothing on the market at the time that was anything close to that. There were all these smart glasses attempts where you could, there was Google Glass where you could watch a video. There were what other products were there? There was Snapchat, which did their spectacles where you could like make videos and stuff. But no one had really tried what we were doing, which is throwing away all these cameras and screens and just doing something simple. But we had 30,000, we had no choice. And then this was 2016. This was about a couple of weeks before the elections. And we knew that if we had to launch something, we only had 6 weeks to do it, because if we had spent longer, then everyone would be sort of watching the elections and no one's sort of writing or reading about tech. So we had 6 weeks, $30,000 to build something completely new. And that was when I knew, okay, I need to fly from San Francisco back to Shenzhen, where things are cheap, they're fast, and I know where everything is. I can get 3D printing same day or next day, versus in San Francisco, it takes a couple of days. I can buy components just at the electronics market, whereas in the US, I have to order something on DigiKey, and it takes about a week to arrive. So we flew back to China, went back to our hardware accelerator, and we sort of spent 6 weeks there building a new product. And then we launched it on Kickstarter with no idea what would happen. But first day, we smashed through our goal of $50,000. And then every day we had a constant sales, which ultimately ended up in $2 million sales within 45 days.
Unbelievable. I mean, what an amazing story. And isn't it amazing how when you set a deadline, you're saying, I like, even before the 6-week deadline, when you gave yourself that 3-month deadline, you said to your co-founder, hey, give me 3 months and then I'll make the decision. We'll revisit this conversation. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and even those maybe listening, that don't give themselves that deadline to make that hard decision. So they end up just keep living, week to week or day by day. And then a year goes by, 2 years goes by, and they're like, oh, shoot. What did we just do? Where did we spend our time? And should we have pivoted earlier? I like that you had enough insight to say, okay, I trust my co-founder enough that I'm willing to test it out. Let's test her hypothesis. But before we do, give me 3 months. 3 months, I can't do it. We'll revisit the conversation. You did that. And then you trusted her enough to say, all right, we have to do this in 6 weeks. $30,000. You have a very finite deadline. You have a quantifiable, measurable metric you have to achieve within a certain amount of time. And you did it. And you not only did it, you crushed it. So then what happened?
Well, I mean, we got $2 million in the bank, and we're like, wow, like last time it was, we're running low on like about 3 digits soon. And now it's suddenly like 7 digits. Yeah, it was pretty cool. We had all this media coverage. That was also when Forbes reached out to us and they wrote about us, and then they also put us on the list. I think that was when we were really realizing, wow, we can do something that's sort of revolutionary. We can sort of invent something from scratch and have people really recognize the idea. It was the second time that we did have an idea that was recognized, but the first time being Beagle, second time being View, but this was the first time when this idea actually also made money. So that was when we raised the funding, we started hiring people, we started spending some time in Shenzhen doing manufacturing, while also keeping our backers happy and keeping them in the loop. Ultimately, production was delayed by about a year or two, but people were happy because we kept them informed about the updates. We showed them everything about development, and we try to keep them updated so that they can see the whole process, to see what it takes to really build hardware. Because people say hardware is hard. It really is super tough. Like when you're doing something like software, there's all this like agile and rapid prototyping, and you try to create a prototype in a couple weeks. With hardware, that's impossible. Like with hardware, it takes like a month to make a PCB. It takes another couple weeks to buy those components and then put them on. Then you test them. It doesn't work. You do it another time. That's a whole new iteration. So hardware takes a long time. But we inform our backers the whole time. And I think that communication is really, really important.
People don't care how long it takes, as long as you're letting them know why is it taking so long and showing them the journey along the way. I'm curious, and I'm sure the listeners are too, what was the main difference between the first Kickstarter campaign and the second Kickstarter campaign? Because I'm sure you learned a lot and maybe have even changed or tweaked a few things. What did you learn? What would be your advice for someone that maybe is going through a similar process?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors that sort of led to the Kickstarter campaign working out. one thing, for example, is you want to get feedback. So you know what you're building, and so do your friends. So when you ask your friends, like, does this website make sense? Does this Kickstarter page, does this explanation make sense? Most likely they already know what you're doing, and so it kind of makes sense to them. But what you don't know is, does it make sense to the layman, to someone who happens to come upon your website? So what I did was I went to coffee stores where I'd stop people and be like, hey, do you have a minute? Like, can you take a look at this website? Can you spend 2 minutes and look at this video and see, is this interesting? Does this make sense? Do you know what this product does? So I went to these coffee shops and just really talked to people who tend to have time if they're hanging out in coffee shops. And they would give me great feedback about, like, I have no idea, like, what does an accelerometer mean? What does a gyroscope mean? Like, can you sort of, not mention these technical terms and just tell me, what does this do for me?
Remove the jargon, remove the buzzwords, just explain to the layman, what does this do and how does it do it?
Exactly. So that was one big thing. The other thing I think was also getting media to sort of to really write about us. So we've been on not just Forbes, but also CNN, NBC, CNBC, basically all the media that you can think of. TechCrunch, Wall Street Journal, everyone's written about us. And with the first version, with the first Kickstarter, we didn't really. The media part sort of came as an afterthought. We launched it, and they were like, "Oh shit, we should sort of reach out to media and have them write about us." But they were like, "Oh, this product's already on the market. People have seen it. It's not really news anymore." But when we did View, we reached out to these reporters way beforehand, before we even had the product prototype, and we said, like, "We're launching something new. We'll let you see it. We'll come to you, to your office in New York or San Francisco, and let you see it. But you're not allowed to write about it until we launch." And they're like, "Okay, I'd love to test it out." And so we went to visit these reporters. And I think that was also really important, because if you send them a product, if you say, like, "Oh, here's some pictures or a video about a product," they're not really engaging with the product. They don't really have a big incentive to learn more about it, to write about it. They're busy people. But when you meet them, you have them try it, and you have them put this on, and they're like, "Oh wow, like, I'm hearing things through that." Like, that's when people are amazed, and that's when they're more likely to write positive things about you.
They're more enthralled, and you created an experience for them. So it's not only go to the media beforehand to build up the anticipation, but then also go to them in person, create an experience that's engaging, fun, and that way they get more enthralled and incentivized. They have more proclivity to release a positive article.
Exactly. Especially, I think it's more important for a hardware product, because you can't really, you can look at pictures, but you don't know how it feels, how it sounds, what it's like to use it. So, things like clothing, food, electronics, all these things, you kind of need to have people to try it. There's, even a game, you would want a reporter to play with it first, right? Rather than just tell them, "Oh, we have a game coming out." So I think that's really important. And then the other thing we also did was we ran a lot of Facebook ads, Instagram ads, really targeting people, very specifically people who wore glasses, which is, an option that you can target on Facebook. And so that worked out really well for us, because basically people who wear glasses always buy glasses. And with what we have, you can also get insurance, like reimbursement, depending on the insurance policy. So even though we sell it for like $299 USD, a lot of people can buy it for cheaper because their insurance covers part of it. And so really targeting people who wear glasses and telling them there's something new that you can try out was really powerful.
Those are great, 3 great tips. And I know those that are thinking about doing the Kickstarter campaign now they're more well equipped to do so successfully. And who better to listen to than someone that is the all-time campaign for eyewear. So congratulations on that. Huge success. All right, we're going to transition now into something I like to call the under 30 seconds round, where I'm going to fire off some questions, answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Ready?
All right.
What is the book you've gifted more often than any other book, and why?
A short history of everything, or a brief history of everything. Basically, it's a book that sort of tells you everything, well, in very short, concise paragraphs and chapters, tells you everything about how the world came to be, how, it touches on anthropology, a bit of history about how the world formed, how sort of religion came to be. And I think that was, to me, that was a book that really helped me learn a lot of things beyond what I was experienced in, which is like mechanical engineering, business and stuff. I think it really sort of helped me understand, oh, okay, so this is how the world works, how things form, why there are countries and governments and all that. So I really liked that book because it gave me a perspective. And now sort of, on the personal side, I'm thinking, oh, maybe in the future I want to like do a PhD in anthropology or something. There's something totally different from what my background has been in, because I don't want to just always be sort of an entrepreneur, an expert at Kickstarter or an expert at building hardware. I want to really learn different things, and hopefully that can help me have a better perspective of like what to be building that can really help people.
A renaissance man. It reminds me of the book *Sapiens* by Yuval Harari.
That's also one of the top on my list. *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*. I really liked both. *Sapiens* and the sequel.
The second version, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, because it really helps you think about the past and think about the future, and really sort of plan for the future. Because I think as entrepreneurs, you always have to be thinking ahead. Like, what are people doing? What are their basic needs? How do we fulfill those needs? And then how will we be fulfilling those needs in the future as technology changes and everything? So I think that was really important. One big inspiration I had from travel was when I was visiting Egypt. And they had like all these sort of paintings in the pyramids and in the temples of people just eating and drinking and hunting and praying. And I was like, isn't that just Instagram? Like, isn't that just Instagram 5,000 years ago? And so you can really, you then realize, okay, so people have been jotting down their lives and like, taking note of what life is like and trying to portray their life for thousands of years. Instagram right now is just simply a new tech form of what people have been painting 5,000 years ago. And
just magnifying what we already had. There's a lot of human innate features that we've continued for many, many years, and we haven't changed much.
That's why I think as entrepreneurs, it's important to really think in that perspective about how things used to work and how things are expected to work in the future. Because a lot of these things are common as humans.
I think it also adds empathy to people's minds, like being empathetic with human beings and realizing we're not that different from where we used to be. We're just really smart animals that happen to retain information because we wrote it down and pass it on to the next generation. But we're pretty primal if you boil us down to our real biological needs and makeup.
Exactly.
And we won't put people on a pedestal as much to be perfect and realize how simple we really are. What's one of the best investments and one of the worst investments you've ever made, and why?
This may be a little bit too early to tell, but in terms of like best investment was recently when the coronavirus came and then all the stocks dropped, I bought a lot of airline stocks, and they have since like doubled or tripled since then. So it may still be a little early, and maybe they'll sort of drop sharply. But the reason why I think investing in like these stocks really worked out for me was because in China, so I think I'm lucky enough to spend half my time in China and half my time in the US. And so it's like very good perspective. The coronavirus hit China much earlier. And right now in China, life has just fully recovered. It's actually recovered since March, when you could go out to eat in restaurants, you were back to work, everything was totally fine. And air travel was like huge. People are going everywhere, still traveling, visiting friends, going out for business trips, whereas the US is still sort of a couple months behind and lagging. But I think it'll catch up soon and be where China is. So I think in terms of, if investment is about sort of financial investment, I think to me, being able to see what happens in China and then seeing how that replicates in the US is just really valuable, and it's worked out pretty well for me.
That's awesome. And what about the worst investment?
Well, also in terms of financial investment, I think is back in college when I was new to stocks, I would buy just, I don't know, all these stocks that analysts would, I'd read analyst reports and they'd talk about, okay, this stock is doing really well, and then I would buy them without really understanding the business and what they did. And then I lost a lot of money back then during college, which is why I haven't touched stocks all these years until recently. And I think it's important to really only invest in things that you are really, really sure about. Like I haven't put too much in cryptocurrency because to me, how does the blockchain work? Why is this valuable? There's still a lot of things that I still need to have answers for before I would really, trust to put a lot of money in it. But I think what I learned back in college was I was just doing what other people were saying. And it turns out that without really understanding those companies and their fundamentals, it doesn't work too well.
Yes.
Recently, there were some Chinese stocks, 58.com, which is like an online platform, and also Luckin Coffee, which a lot of people say is like the Starbucks of China. Like I know a lot of people in the US lost money on that. And these are stocks that I totally wouldn't have bought because when you're living in China, you know that these companies aren't doing too well, and they're definitely faking numbers. So it came to us as no surprise in China when it did turn out that they were faking numbers. But to a lot of people in the US, they were like, I'm going to invest in the Starbucks of China because they open more stores than Starbucks. And then the fraudulent scam comes up, and then they're totally hit by that. So I think really understanding the industry or whatever you're putting time or money into is really important.
That's great advice. What's the most impactful thing you do in your morning routine and the most impactful thing you do in your evening routine?
I think morning, well, one thing I always try to, I've been doing for like over 10 years, is to try to help someone every day. So, just, it could be as simple as, I don't know, sometimes even maybe getting the door for someone, like sometimes I have to make that count. But sometimes it's, helping someone move their stuff or helping all kinds of things. But every day I try to help someone, and I try to make that a habit. So that's something that sort of in the morning, I sort of remind myself, okay, who do I help yesterday? And, what am I going to be doing today? That I think has been really useful because to me, it's like every day I feel I've been doing something and helping someone and making something better for someone. Evening routine wise, I think one thing that I do is I always try to ask myself, do I have any regrets for that day? And if so, what do I do to no longer make it a regret? Because I think what led me to this was I had a couple friends from college that passed away. And, these were people who were 18, 19, or in their early 20s. And they just suddenly passed away due to illnesses, due to accidents, due to all kinds of things. And that's when I realized that, well, like life, it's really short. Like it could just end tomorrow and you'd have no idea today. And so I realized that I have to, if I love someone, I have to tell them. If I want to do something, I have to do it. So I always ask myself, like, am I doing something, that if today was the last day of my life, would I still be doing these things? And if the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, then okay, tomorrow I should be doing that. In case the day after tomorrow is my last day.
It's a great way to look at life.
Exactly. And so when I do my startup, that's a question I often ask myself because it's been 7 years doing the same company. And a lot of people are like, how do you even do that and stay in the same company and do the same thing for 7 years? And to me, it's like, is there anything else I would want to do more than this? No. I still want to do this because I love it. And so that's why I continue doing it. But if one day I no longer do it, then it's probably because I asked myself, is there something else I want to do? And I have something else I want to do. Then maybe I would just go and do that.
Maybe that's space exploration. We'll see.
Well, I'm
Pretend
planning
you,
this to
yeah,
be my next startup because I think I need to still sell two more companies before I can have the money to do any space exploration.
touche. Well, I think after you read Elon's book, you might have a different opinion. Um, pretend you won the Peter Thiel Fellowship and you were going to get money to start a business instead of go to college. What's the very first thing you do to start your new business?
I know that the fellowship is for a lot of, much younger people. And so, as someone who's, I've made the mistake of being a college student and building something that was, I thought, perfect for college students. And actually there was a real world application that was way beyond college. And I also quite often see that, like I had a friend last year I met who, was doing a code check robot where you can do code checks, and he was saying like, this is perfect product that we're gonna sell to frats and sororities. Where like, when you go into a frat, you need to take up your code, and so we'll do a code check so that when people are drunk, they're not gonna mess up their codes. And I'm like, okay, that's great, and frats and sororities probably need it, but there are a lot of markets out there that need this much more, like convention centers, hotels, big event venues, things like that, where they're much more willing to pay money for a machine or robot to do that. So I think, for someone who does get the Teal Fellowship and before they do anything, is to really, if you have an idea, talk to people who are much older than you, much more experienced than you, to see what they think about those ideas. If you're lacking people to work with you, try to find people who maybe have experience that's different from you, or maybe people who are even older and have different perspectives. Because I think really, bridging that together is important, rather than a whole team of 19, 18-year-olds, all, with limited experience trying to build something.
I always recommend trying to start in a startup, working in a startup first before you create your own startup. Last question. What's something you never knew you needed?
So the thing that is, I think, really most important to me is the fact that I have a great co-founder. Like, I've always thought that you could just build a business on your own. We mentioned Elon Musk multiple times. Like, even though he's had co-founders, he's sort of the driving force behind everything, right? And so, when you look at a lot of people's stories, not everyone has a co-founder. A lot of people are, they have that energy and drive and spirit to do things themselves. But I think that if I didn't have a co-founder, I probably would have failed like 6 years ago, in my first year, because you always have limited life experience and experience in a lot of things, and you need people to complement what you're good at, and make up for what you're not good at. So I think for me, I'm good at building technology, coming up with ideas, but how do I manage a team? How do I market a product? How do I design something cool? That's where my co-founder comes in. Her name's Tian Tian. She also made it on the Forbes list. I think we work really well together, and our skills really complement each other. We don't agree on most things, and that's what I really love about how we work together, because we don't agree with each other, but then we can also tell each other why we don't agree, share our different perspectives, and then persuade the other. And I think that's really, really important, versus, I don't know, finding someone who always agrees with you, even if you're wrong, then that's going to lead to failure.
Yeah, it just validates your confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for being here today. Before you go, what's the next big goal, milestone, or bucket list item you want to achieve?
Well, company-wise, we're going to be launching new products soon. So this is the first version of Vue. We're going to build sleeker, lighter versions of Vue. And I think to us, what we my goal is to, I hope that everyone in the world ultimately is wearing a pair of Vue, because everyone who wears glasses, which is about 60-70% of the world, I hope everyone's going to be wearing Vue, because I think there's a lot of innovation that can be built in this space. No one has really cracked it yet, and I think we're in a position to do that. So that would be my goal, is to really have everyone own a pair. Just like how, I don't know, I think it was like in the 1950s when was it IBM or someone said that they were hoping everyone in the world would have a computer, and it didn't seem possible at the time. But then now everyone does have a computer. So I think it's totally possible that in the future, everyone's going to have a pair of smart glasses that's going to do a lot more things than them, for them.
Well, hopefully after listening to this podcast, a lot more people will have a pair of View glasses. Jason and his team were nice enough to give you in the audience a discount by using coupon code Phil's Podcast, and you get an extra $30 off at viewglasses.com. And the View is spelled VUE, glasses.com. Jason, thanks for your generosity. Where do listeners go to connect with you directly?
Well, they can, good question, probably LinkedIn, probably they can reach out to me on my website, jason@viewglasses.com. If they want to meet in person, I'm all over the world. I'm in Hong Kong right now under quarantine, but I do often find myself in Shenzhen and San Francisco most of the time.
Right. Please go connect with Jason. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. This is Jason Gui with View Glasses, who beat Google Glass and made smart glasses you actually want to wear. We learned so much today. We learned how to build a proper Kickstarter campaign. We learned how to go and pivot from a previous company to your new company. Jason, a lot of actionable tips today. Thank you so much for being here today, and it was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
I hope this episode helped you as much as it helped me. Have an amazing day. Thanks for joining us today. I hope this episode helped you as much as it helped me. Who do you think would benefit from hearing it? You can make an impact on their life by sharing it now. Before you go, I encourage you to tell us your favorite part of the episode in the review section. Now it's time to level up. Level up.